Today, there are heartbreaking new details in the accidental drowning death of...
What if I told you the man once crowned as America's TV dad just shattered the silence and lit a match under one of Hollywood's juiciest, most unsettling mysteries? What if I told you Bill Cosby, already neck-deep in scandal, shame, and secrets spicy enough to make a judge choke, stared straight into the camera and dropped a line so icy, his own crew scrambled to kill the feed? It went down during what was meant to be a safe, stage-managed, par-scrubbed interview, the kind where controversy is checked at the door. The set was still, the lighting soft enough to iron out every wrinkle, and the questions so bland they could have been ghostwritten by a corporate intern. But then, the air changed. His hands, once resting like a saint's, balled into fists, his jaw locked. His eyes flicked towards some invisible figure in the wings. And then, leaning in just close enough for the mic to catch every syllable, he dropped it. You all keep saying he's dead, but here's the truth. Malcolm is still alive. The interviewer froze like their brain had just blue screened. For a split second, you could almost hear the static buzzing between thought and speech as they scrambled for anything to say. Off to the side, a panicked producer hissed through the earpiece. Cut to break. Now. But those cameras, they kept rolling. Bill Cosby's face didn't flinch, calm, dangerously calm, like a man who knew he'd just lobbed a grenade and was savoring the slow-motion explosion. The internet wasn't about to wait for the credits. A clip of those 8 words hit Twitter before the segment even ended, and by the time the studio lights cooled, #MalcolmLives had already hijacked the trending page worldwide. But to grasp why those words detonated the entire narrative, why? They torched the tidy story that Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death was just some tragic accident. You have to rewind back to when the two were practically welded at the hip, at least for the cameras. On The Cosby Show, Malcolm wasn't just another actor, he was Theo Huxtable, the quick-witted, lovable son who grew up right under Cosby's watch. On screen, they were the picture-perfect father-son duo. Off-screen, let's just say that wholesome family vibe the tabloids sold wasn't exactly the full story. Former crew members, the kind who signed NDAs so thick you could prop open a bank vault with them, have been whispering for years that the Cosby-Malcolm dynamic was far messier than the polished image ever let on. Malcolm was hungry. He wanted scripts with bite stories about real black families, not just sanitized, laugh-track comfort food. Bill Cosby? He wanted the throne, the shine, and a cash machine that never coughed. By the late 90s, backstage, chatter told of closed-door shouting matches, script pages mysteriously rewritten overnight to kill Malcolm's pitches, and the occasional threat to remember who made you. Then, just a few months back, the newsflash hit like ice water. Malcolm had drowned while vacationing in Costa Rica. The headlines were sterile, almost robotic. Actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner dead at 55, accidental drowning. No foul play. Case closed. Except, fans weren't buying it. This was a man who barely swam, a fact his friends had been saying for years, yet somehow he ends up alone on a desolate beach in a country he'd never publicly mentioned. And that last Instagram post, a brooding ocean shot under storm clouds, captioned, "Truth comes in waves, not the kind of goodbye that slips quietly out of memory, the kind that sears itself into it." So when Cosby said those words, "Malcolm is still alive," it wasn't just shocking. It was gasoline on a fire that had been quietly burning since the day the body bag was zipped shut. Within hours, the conspiracy floodgates blew wide open. TikTok detectives swore they'd caught him on fuzzy grocery store security footage in Belize. A bartender in Panama insisted she poured him a cup of coffee just 2 weeks ago. Then Reddit lit up with a blurry snapshot of a man whose walk, build, and even hand gestures screamed Malcolm, face shadowed under a low baseball cap. And then, the drop that sent chills through the diehards, an anonymous account called Theona Moore appeared. In a shadowy corner of the internet, "I worked security for Bill Cosby in 2017. Malcolm was writing a tell-all. He told me, if something happens to me, it's not an accident." The post claimed Malcolm was sitting on career-ending dynamite financial records, secret recordings, damning photographs implicating some of Hollywood's most adored names in a tangled web of exploitation, cover-ups, and dirty money. According to the leak, Malcolm had locked it all away in a secure stash outside U.S. borders, with orders for it to go public if he ever wound up dead. But here's the twist. not a single thing has surfaced. No photos, no files, no smoking gun. Which leaves one haunting question hanging in the air: if Malcolm's really gone, why hasn't the dead man's switch been flipped? And if Cosby's telling the truth, where on earth is he? The interview clip only turned the whole thing into a bigger circus. After that first bombshell, Bill Cosby leaned back in his chair, wearing a smirk that could curdle milk, and purred, "When he's ready, you'll see him again, but you won't like what he has to say." That's not the kind of slip a grieving friend makes, that's the kind of line you drop when you're issuing a warning. And the way his eyes narrowed right after, viewers swear he wasn't looking at the interviewer at all, but straight past the lens at someone in the control room, someone who knew exactly what he meant. By nightfall, social media had gone full detective mode. Instagram pages devoted to finding Malcolm exploded to hundreds of thousands of followers. In hours, Reddit sleuths traced imaginary escape routes from Costa Rica to nearby countries. YouTube breakdowns picked apart every frame of the Cosby clip like it was the Zapruder film. Then came the audio leak, an unverified voicemail, allegedly from Malcolm himself, dated 2 weeks after his supposed death. The voice was deep, steady, and eerily familiar. "I don't have much time. Tell them I'm safe. Tell them he was right." And then click. No background noise, no explanation, just those words. Now the internet split down the middle. Half swearing this proves Malcolm is alive, half convinced it's nothing but an AI deepfake built to keep us chasing ghosts. But that voicemail? It didn't close the case, it lit the match. What had been a weird little corner of internet gossip exploded into a headline-hungry media circus. Outlets that had side-eyed the whispers for months suddenly couldn't get enough of the mystery of Malcolm. Some spun it as a miracle, maybe the beloved star had cheated death. Others painted it darker, an elaborate distraction cooked up by Bill Cosby to keep eyes off his crumbling empire. The strangest twist? Not a peep from Malcolm's family. His mother, usually quick to swat down nonsense, stayed silent. His closest friends dodged interviews. Overnight, it was as if a steel wall had been dropped around anyone who might actually know the truth. And then, the FBI's name got dragged into the mix. A self-proclaimed federal insider, hiding behind the handle Fed Truth 88, posted a thread claiming the Bureau had been tracking Malcolm for months before his death. Why? Because he supposedly held classified files tied to massive corruption cases allegedly touching figures far bigger than anyone from The Cosby Show. According to the Post, Malcolm's trip to Costa Rica wasn't leisure, it was an extraction. Someone had warned him his life was in danger, and that beach where his body was found, nothing more than a stage set for his vanishing act. Outrageous? Sure, but the internet devoured it. Soon, grainy screenshots of redacted FBI memos were everywhere. And even through the pixel blur, a few words jumped out like a slap: subject Warner, Malcolm J, and high-risk asset. It was just enough to send Twitter into a full-blown frenzy. Then came the sighting that melted the internet's collective brain. A shaky, 12-second TikTok clip from a tourist in Belize showed a man in a low baseball cap and dark sunglasses stepping out of a black SUV. The caption: "Thought this was Malcolm-Jamal Warner, until he looked at me." In the split-second turn of his head, the camera caught just enough, that same jawline, those unmistakable eyes, and the tiny scar above his eyebrow he'd earned on the Cosby Show set decades ago. For anyone who grew up watching him, it was like seeing a ghost. Within an hour, the clip had 15 million views. By sunrise, it was gone. So was the account. Bill Cosby's camp? Dead silent. No denial. No, that's ridiculous, nothing. And that silence screamed louder than any PR statement could. Internet sleuths went into overdrive, resurfacing old interviews where Malcolm had hinted at wanting to disappear, or muttered about starting fresh somewhere no one could find you. In a 2015 podcast, he'd even laughed while saying, "One day I might just vanish and let y'all wonder what happened." Back then, it was a joke. Now, not so much. Then, without warning, a second audio leak dropped, this time on a tiny, encrypted forum only deep dive conspiracy hunters seemed to know existed. It was longer, rawer, and carried a bite of danger. The same deep, steady voice said, "If you're hearing this, it means I'm still running. They're watching everyone." Cosby wasn't lying, but he's not telling the whole truth either. The way he lingered on, they sent a chill through even the most cynical listeners. Who exactly were they? And why did it sound like this voice, real or fake, was scared to death? The FBI kept its lips zipped about the leaks. Bill Cosby dodged every chance to expand on his claim. Still, the so-called evidence kept trickling in. A blurry photo here, a friend of a friend's story there, even a supposed email from Malcolm's former agent reading, "He's safe, but he can't come back. Not yet." The more these breadcrumbs piled up, the harder it became to tell fact from pure fabrication. Was Malcolm-Jamal Warner really alive and in hiding? Was this just a twisted hoax to keep his name buzzing in headlines? Or, and here's the theory no one wanted to say out loud, was Cosby masterminding the entire spectacle to keep the spotlight off his own imploding reputation? Then came the tipping point. A mainstream news anchor, live on air, played that first leaked voicemail, boldly claiming her station had verified it through independent forensic analysis. As the audio ended, her co-anchor visibly stiffened. She drew a breath to respond, and the feed abruptly cut. After commercials, the story was gone from the lineup like it had never existed. The clip never aired again. Within hours, the station's website scrubbed the article, replacing it with a throwaway entertainment piece. But it was already too late. Millions had seen it. And now the burning question wasn't, is Malcolm alive? But why are they working this hard to make us think he's not? The chaos roared back when 3 shadowy photographs surfaced on a private Telegram channel infamous for dropping celebrity scandals before the mainstream can even blink. The shots were grainy, clearly snapped from a distance, showing a man hunched at an outdoor cafe, head down, wearing a faded hoodie and dark sunglasses. In one frame, he's sipping coffee. In another, he's chatting with a woman in a wide-brimmed hat. And in the third, he's staring straight into the lens like he knew someone was out there watching. The caption, "Safe House, Northern Belize. He's fine. Stop looking." Within hours, the images had detonated across Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Some swore the posture, the jawline, even the way his fingers gripped the cup screamed Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Others rolled their eyes, calling it a lookalike stunt or an AI-generated plant meant to stir the pot. But then an eagle-eyed fan caught something no one else had: the bracelet on his left wrist, a woven red and black band with a tiny silver guitar charm. In 2019, Malcolm himself had posted a photo wearing that exact piece, calling it "my lucky string." That post, deleted months before his death. And just when the internet hit peak frenzy, an Instagram story from one of Malcolm's oldest friends, a musician he'd collaborated with for years, accidentally poured gasoline on the blaze. The clip showed the friend in a dimly lit recording studio, laughing with someone just out of frame. But behind them, propped against the wall, was a distinctive guitar, custom-made, matte black with gold trim, the same instrument fans had spotted in dozens of Malcolm's old performance videos. Within minutes, Twitter was flooded with screenshots and side-by-side comparisons. The friend yanked the story down in under 10 minutes, but it was already too late. His next public post was buried under a wall of furious comments. "Where is Malcolm? Stop hiding him. We know he's alive." 2 days later, Bill Cosby broke his silence and the internet practically held its breath. Paparazzi caught him mid-stride during a quick street ambush, cloaked in an oversized hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low. When a reporter hit him point blank with the question, was his earlier statement about Malcolm true? He stopped, smirked, and dropped a line colder than the morning air. "The problem isn't whether he's alive. The problem is whether he's safe." Then, without another word, he slipped into a waiting SUV and disappeared. No follow-up, no context, just gone. Within hours, the clip went nuclear online, racking up millions of views. For many, it was the first time they'd ever seen Cosby look genuinely rattled, not smug, not defensive, but worried. And that only made the whole thing feel darker. Then came a twist from the last place anyone expected: an ancient fan forum for The Cosby Show. A user who hadn't posted in nearly a decade suddenly reappeared with one cryptic sentence: "The Costa Rica beach wasn't where it happened. Check the marina logs." Within hours, amateur internet sleuths were combing through every bit of publicly available docking data. And there it was. On the exact day of Malcolm's reported death, a private yacht registered under a shell company checked out from a nearby marina at 4:12 a.m. and returned just before noon, the precise window when Malcolm supposedly went for a swim and drowned. The crew list? Nothing but aliases. The passenger log? Completely blank. And stranger still, the yacht was dry docked and repainted within a week of coming back. As this revelation caught fire, the FBI rumor mill kicked into overdrive. Whistleblower chatter claimed Malcolm hadn't been swept out to sea at all. He'd been taken offshore, quietly transferred to another vessel, and ferried to a safe house in another country. Why? According to one particularly explosive leak, he was sitting on dynamite, not just dirt on Bill Cosby, but on a shadowy network of entertainment industry heavyweights who'd been pulling strings behind the scenes for decades. The leak insisted Malcolm had been preparing to go public, with a cache of recorded conversations. And the last person he met before vanishing was, in fact, Cosby himself. Public reaction hit a fever pitch on a quiet Tuesday morning when a new account appeared on X, handle @Malcolm-Warner. One post. No photo, no banner, no verification. Just 7 words, "I'll speak when it's safe." In under 30 minutes, it had over 500,000 followers. Within the hour, it was gone, deleted without a trace. Some users swore they'd received a direct message before the account vanished, all reading the same chilling phrase, "Don't believe the water." News outlets scrambled to cover it, but viewers started noticing something weird. Live segments would glitch, abruptly cut to commercials, or lose audio every time Malcolm's name came up. Conspiracy theorists screamed intentional censorship. Skeptics shrugged it off as coincidence, but the pattern was far too precise to ignore. And then, just when it felt like the frenzy couldn't get any stranger, another leak dropped. This time, it was a shaky cell phone video, supposedly filmed inside a dimly lit room. The clip was grainy, dim, and claustrophobic, showing a man hunched over a table, murmuring to someone just out of frame. The resolution was garbage, but the voice, even veteran journalists had to admit, it sounded uncannily like Malcolm. "They think I'm gone," the man said, his tone low and deliberate. "That's the only reason I'm still breathing. But they're getting closer. If Cosby talks again, you'll know why." And then slam. A door, hard and final. The screen went black. Within an hour, the uploader's account had vanished, banned without explanation, leaving nothing but a flood of screen recordings and one more question no one could answer.